So we're very lucky at World Vision. We're actually the world's largest privately funded NGO, which means a lot of our money comes from individual donors. We are a sponsorship organisation, which means we are not necessarily restricted in how we're able to use our funds. So we're able to be flexible, which is fantastic. It's a real bonus for us. We have something called a fragile context business model, which is an approach that World Vision has adopted for the 6 countries that we work in that have a fragile context, where we've said, for exactly this reason, we need to have flexible funding. We can't rely on grants necessarily, that we can't change location quickly. We need to have a pot of money that we can use to be as responsive as possible to the actual need. So that's the way that we've decided to work in DRC. We use our fragile context business model, whereby we use money that we receive from our sponsors and from our donors, without the kind of restrictions that you might have if you were grant funded, for instance.
What would your advice be then for traditional donors whose funding mechanisms are not so flexible as yours are?
I think a really good thing that we have seen through bilateral donors, especially USAID and DFID, is a search for innovative solutions. So when you speak to some of these donors, they very much understand that they need a very strong context analysis. And I think donors have really got that message, and they're much better at that now. And we have found that funding that comes from bilateral partners tends to be now, people are prioritizing innovative solutions and trying new ideas. And whilst a lot of the stories that come out of Eastern Congo that's a lot of doom and gloom, the big change in last year was the attention of the international community and this focus for, okay, we have failed to our job here, but what we can do is try new things. And whilst there might be some teething problems with some of the new approaches, the fact that people want to try new things and change is brilliant. So we would encourage donors to keep doing that, to say, actually, when you're working with an NGO, let them be flexible in where they might have to implement, understand that changes might have to be made. But as long as donors keep accepting to try new things and try new projects, I think that will be a great thing.
So is it true that the funding mechanism often works against you when you sort of have to plan 5 years in advance and it's really unflexible to change your project in midstream?
I think it can do. It's a difficult thing when you're asking for grant funding. And another problem we're seeing is that actually people are less inclined to fund humanitarian projects in DRC. So we would encourage donors to say, actually, even if you are going to use a grant approach, carry on giving us the money. The money still needs to come into Eastern Congo. The humanitarian situation has not resolved to a place where we can let these things go past.